see you again next time.
What's up, guys? Rhett Tollison here today. Today we're going to go over installation on a 2024 Street Glide. This will apply for the 2023 CVO Street Glide as well. Harley has made a lot of changes, to the hand controls, a lot of electronics. The handlebars are specific to these models, so this is not something that you can, buy that fit on a 2022 or previous. So we will have these bars listed specifically for the new 24 models and the 23 CVO. So we're going to go through the disassembly of getting the stock handlebars off. We'll wire everything up here at the table, and then we'll reassemble everything on the bike. You can go up to 14-inch bars with the stock brake line, the stock electrical harnesses. The only thing that will need to be changed is the clutch cable. That's something that we'll go over in detail on the bike with the clutch cable. We'll point some things out that Harley did on this model that have made it quite different from the previous years. So we'll get to the bike, start tearing it down, and work through the process. First thing we're going to do, like always, we'll cover up our gas tank, front fender. We've got our protective bags to use when we get our brake and clutch lever off. So we'll start with that, and then we'll proceed to take the fairing off. So the first thing that we're going to do on the fairing disassembly, we've got 3 bolts on the inside that hold the outer shell in place. We'll take those out, and then we'll move over here to the windshield. The windshield has 2 bolts on each side, and then underneath it, there's 2 bolts under it, and then our outer fairing will be ready to come off. These are going to use a Torx 25. You can use a driver, or we like to use these Milwaukee 12-volt right angle ratchets. They allow you to get in the tight spaces and just work really good. Turn your mirror a little bit. Get this first bolt. All right, we got the 3 bolts out. If you'll notice, you've got 2 long ones, 1 shorter one. The shorter one goes in the middle. If you put the long one in the middle, it's going to go through the outer fairing. So just make sure when you're putting everything back together, you pay attention to detail and know where those bolts are supposed to go. Long one on top, short one in the middle, long one on the bottom. All right, same thing on the other side. Rotate your mirror out of the way. We'll remove these bolts that hold our windshield down, and there's a couple more underneath it. Same bit size, Torx 25. All right, the windshield is kind of corralled in these little clips here. Just give it a little bump and they'll slide right out. All right, here's our 4 underneath. Just make sure you got a little pressure on the fairing when you remove these, just so it doesn't fall out of place onto the ground. Same bit size, Torx 25. All right, now this piece, you're ready to come out. You got your last 2 bolts right here. And that'll completely free up this outer shell. Same bit size, Torx 25. This is where you want to make sure you got a little pressure, maybe in the headlight area. We use our hip, just lean up against it. Same thing on this side. You can see that's freed up. There's a little plastic clip on either side here. You'll see this outer shell kind of slide out of it. Let's take our fairing off. Now we've got to unhook our headlight. All right, now we need to unhook our headlight. Got one plug here. It's got a tab. Just press it, pull it out. That will complete the outer shell removal. All right, a few more bolts on either side. You've got one small one that holds this plastic kind of cap where your key lock is. And then you've got 2 frame bolts that hold the entire fairing to the legs. The small bolt is, you can use a Torx 25. And then the bolts that go to the legs, you can use a Torx 40. All right, and these 2 bolts here, Torx 40. All right, we're gonna repeat the same thing on the other side. Torx 25. Torx 40. All right, we're going to use a small flathead screwdriver. Going to get underneath this little plastic bezel, pry up. It's going to expose 2 Phillips head bolts. Remove those. All right, moving back over to the front of the bike. This lower trim piece, it's got the little wind deflectors on it. It's freed up now that we removed the side bolts that go into the legs. So we're just going to discard it, put it to the side. Now we need to disconnect our electrical harnesses for our switch controls. These are going to be found right here. You can cut this zip tie or you can just pull this whole clip off. All right, now we need to physically disconnect them. These plugs are similar to some of the other plugs Harley has used. There's a little tab here that needs to be compressed. I like to use a small flathead screwdriver. Disconnect that. Same thing on the other side here. Disconnect that. All right, there's one more. Same similar style plug. Flathead in, pull out. All right, couple more plugs to disengage before we completely remove our fairing. You're gonna have this main plug here, and then there's a smaller one just right above it. Same style plug as the headlight. It's got a button, press it, disengage. This one's on the top, press it, disengage. That should completely free up the fairing to be removed. All right, now that we have got everything unplugged, unbolted, we're ready to completely remove our fairing. We're just gonna pick up, kind of pull back to us. If you feel some resistance before you just, take off and walk away, maybe, throw an eye under it or get somebody to take a look for you. because we don't want to, if you've missed a plug, we don't want to just completely rip that harness to pieces. So just be, somewhat forceful, but somewhat delicate. Everything's just kind of going to unclick here from the front, this lower piece. You'll hear it. Sit this somewhere, obviously, where it's not going to get damaged. There's a lot of money in this piece, especially this screen. We like to use the fairing docks from Rita Innovations. They work well for the outer shell too, but just be careful with this piece. Okay, we've got our fairing off. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way as well. Now we're going to get our controls, our brake and clutch lever taken off, and we'll be ready to dismount the bar. All right, we're going to remove our 2 perch clamp bolts. One thing to point out, I went over this in a previous video, but the perch clamp and the switch housing is all one piece on these models. Get it started if you're using power. Perch clamp bolts are removed. Harley has added a little pigtail harness that comes off the main wiring harness that goes through the bar, and it plugs into the brake and the clutch levers. So where this little boot is, if you'll just kind of press the back side of it, that's where the release tab is inside of that boot. You can see the plug there. If you don't feel confident in that, you can work this boot back so that you can fully see that plug. But honestly, right here where you see this little square, press that line and it'll pull out. That'll completely allow your brake master cylinder and lever to move out of the way, and we'll bag it up so it doesn't damage anything. All right, we'll bag it up. Let it hang freely. All right, same thing on this side. I may have failed to mention these 2 bolts are Torx 27s. Same thing with the plug. Back it out. All right, one thing I want to point out, one of the changes Harley's made, it still has the mechanical clutch like it came on the 21, 22, and 23 models, but they've added this hard casing. It's got 2 bends in it. It flows with the geometry of the stock bar, but there's 2 ways to do this. One, the way that we recommend is just completely replacing this top side cable. It's a 2-piece cable system. It's got the connection point right on the frame. So we're gonna, in this video, we're gonna completely reinstall a new top half of the clutch cable. If you're kind of on a budget, you don't want to spend the extra 130, 150 bucks, you can bend this by hand to form the geometry of the new bars that you're putting on, but you're still gonna have to use a clutch extension. We use Patriot Baggers clutch extension. It's a simple part, it works good. So it's kind of a catch-22. The cleanest, best method is to just completely replace it, but you can get away with just bending it to form the geometry of the new part. So we'll go over in detail how to change this completely out in the following steps. All right, there's a Torx 27 bolt here on the triple tree that's holding this clutch cable in place. Before we bag up the lever, let's remove that. That will allow this to move a little freer. You can really see this hard casing here. All right, we'll remove the same bolt for the brake. Torx 27. All right, so those bolts that we just removed, we won't reassemble those when we get our new bars put on. That's one of the ways that we'll have some extra length on our brake line and our clutch cable. So we'll just discard those completely for now. Okay, we're ready to remove our riser bolts, take off the stock bars. Just make sure your electrical harnesses are free. You know, they're not tangled up in here in the hydraulic lines or the other electrical components. So maybe just pull them out. And then let's remove our 4 riser bolts. These are 1/4 inch hex drive, Allen key. Keep a little pressure on the end of the handle just so the bars don't fall completely towards the gas tank, or get a helping hand to throw a set on there. Discard your riser clamp. All right, now we'll move over to the table and start the internal wiring. All right, so we've got our stock bar here. We're gonna get the controls completely off, the harnesses completely removed from the inside of the stock bar. We'll go over a few changes and then we'll be ready to load up our new ones and get them on the bike. All right, these are going to be, we're on the back side of our switch housings. Got a couple bolts. They're going to be Torx 20. They're double threaded, so they shouldn't just fall out of the back side of the cover. All right, move those out of the way. All right, we're gonna go ahead and unplug our switch harnesses from the housing. This bike does not have heated grips. If it did, you can reference back to my promotional video for the 23 CVO models. There will be a pigtail that comes out of the inside of the grip, out of this slot here, where your main harness comes from, and it'll plug in to this location here. So if you have heated grips, you'll have to unplug that. And then your main switch harness plug, same style plug as we removed from the actual bike. Stick a flathead in and pull it out. All right. Now we can just slide this whole assembly off. Grip comes off, whole housing comes off. You can see I pointed out earlier the perch clamp is part of the housing now. Same thing on the other side, Torx 20. Remove the back side. Okay, there's a little clip here. Just kind of press it down and back. It'll open up like a door. It'll allow you to get to one of the plugs a little easier. Same thing, if the bike had heated grips, you'd have a pigtail coming out of the slot, wraps around, goes into this location. This is our main switch harness. Flathead in, pull out. Now this other one here, this is the new throttle by wire. This whole little donut assembly, basically the grip notches into it, and when you turn the grip, it turns a mechanism in there. So this black plug, that's gonna be your throttle by wire harness. Same style plug, flathead in, pull out. Now the whole grip and switch housing will slide off. You take the grip apart, just sit it all to the side. All right, now we're gonna work our stock harness out of the bar. I like to pull it out of the handle slot. So we'll just feed in a little bit from the base slot and pull out the slack from the top. We'll repeat the same thing for the other side. All right. Now we're ready to load up our new bars. All right, now we're ready to load up our new bars that we're putting on the bike. Today we're gonna do a set of Patriot Baggers. These are gonna be the narrowest of the bagger bars that we offer. We're gonna just unwrap the exposed areas, the grips, the base section, so we can get access to our slots. If you do wanna unwrap the bars entirely, highly recommend wrapping them back up. I understand if you wanna inspect them prior to install. Our quality control is really good though. On parts leaving our facility, we do a good job inspecting them. We have a pretty high reject rate because of that with our powder coater and our polishers. So expose the handles and the base sections. We can get access to the slots. We'll blow a string through like we always do, and then pull our pull wire through, and then we'll tape off to the switch harnesses and get them through the bar. All right, we're gonna blow our string through. All right, so we can pull out the string from the bottom slot. I like to just put a loop in my string. Just kind of bend the wire, stick the wire through that loop, and then just kind of bend it where it holds. Twist it around a little bit. Failed to mention, we're using about 6 feet of 12 gauge copper stranded wire. That's what we've always found to work the best. And we will pull our wire until there is about, I don't know, a couple inches sticking out of that bottom slot. You can unhook your string and just put it to the side till we go to the other side. All right, I'm on the throttle side of the handlebar. So just make sure you have your throttle harness, your right side harness. Just kind of line your plugs up where one's a little bit ahead of the other. Tape it off to our pull wire. Tight and light. You don't want it big and bulky going through there. All right, same technique. We're gonna push some slack in, pull the slack out of the bottom. Push it in the handle slot, pull it out the bottom. Getting all the way through. We'll undo our tape. All right, you can pull your pull wire out of the handlebar now. We'll go to the left side. All right, we're gonna blow our string through the left side. Pull it out of the slot there. All right, same thing. We'll hook our pull wire in our little loop we've made. Twist it around so it'll hold up to a little bit of pressure. And we'll feed it through until there's a couple inches sticking out of the base. All right, disconnect it. All right, we're gonna tape off our left side switch harness. This one's just got one plug because it doesn't have the throttle. Tight and light. Work it through, feed some in, pull it out the base. You can remove these labels if you would like. Get a little bit out of the base and untape it. remove our pull wire from the bar. All right, now we're ready to put our grip and our switch housings on. We're going to start on the left side here. If you'll look at the end of this grip, it's got two little cutouts. One's a little bit bigger than the other. The bigger one is going to seat. First of all, it'll go in this lip here, but there's a tab where that cutout will sit. So just slide it in that ring, and it shouldn't turn once it's seated properly. All right, if you can hold this with the grip seated properly, we'll just slide the whole assembly onto the bar. Turn the buttons to the front. All right, now we're going to plug up our harness. Again, if you have heated grips, you'll have a pigtail coming out of this grip, the inside of it, and it'll come out of the slot here. It'll just snake around, plug right up right there. We're going to plug our harness up. Hear it click. All right, and this excess that you have sticking out, you can work it back through the bar. So just push it in the slot and then go back to the bottom and just pull the slack out. You don't want it banjo tight. You know, you want to have a little bit of play there, but nonetheless, you don't want a lot of slop sticking out. Otherwise, your cover will put it all in a bind. All right, this is the back side of the switch housing for the left side switch housing. On the stock bars, Harley has a little hole on the handle tube for this set screw to go into. And what this does is just locks the switch cubes in place where you cannot rotate them at all. We will not be putting that hole in our bars. What you can do is just back this set screw out. You can see on the inside it creates like a little nipple where it goes in the tube on the stock bar. Back it out till it's flush. And then once you get the bars on the bike, you get everything positioned where you want it, you can tighten that back down just enough where it touches the bar and it'll act like a set screw, you know, in the same concept. This pigtail that goes into on this side, the clutch lever, it's going to go in this little cutout here on the back side of the switch housing. Just seat it all together. Make sure that's free. Make sure your main harness is not pinched. And then you can snug up your T20 bolts. All right, we'll move over to the other side. All right, this little door, we're on the right side, this door that we removed earlier when we were disassembling everything, it's got the same style set pin that we just went over on the left side, but this one is just a molded piece of plastic. So we're just gonna snip it off for the same reason. It just locks everything in place where you can't rotate your switch housings. We've done this on our previous styles from the previous years. All the set pins that Harley puts in place, just remove them. Just clip it off. And that'll be good enough for that. All right, so we're gonna set our throttle grip. Same thing you can look at here. This grip has notches on it. That's gonna allow the throttle by wire assembly to turn. So we're gonna seat it in this little trough. Seat the notches in the assembly. Make sure it turns good. All right, if you can keep it in place, we'll just slide it on the handlebar just like this. All right. Now, we'll go ahead and plug up our throttle by wire harness first. That's the black plug. All right, you can shut this door. Plug the main switch harness in. Hear it click. All right, same thing here. If you've got a little bit of slack, you can pull it out the bottom. Don't want it banjo tight, but you don't want it loose and sloppy. All right, moving on to the back side of this switch cover of the switch housing. Make sure our pigtail is not pinched or in a bind. Tighten up our Torx 20, or snug up our Torx 20 bolts. And you can see I've still got some play here. Once we get the bars on the bike and get everything fitted the way we want it, we'll tighten all that down when we put the brake lever on. All right, that completes internal wiring. This is much simpler on the new models than it has been on the previous models. You just have one harness on each side. Heated grips are much easier if you have them. It's just a small pigtail, comes out of the inside of the grip, loops around, plugs back into the switch housing. So now we're ready to get the bars back on the bike. We'll go over the clutch cable change. I'll show you, how to free up the slack for the brake line if you're going up to a 14. And I'll show you on the electrical how to make it long enough for a 14-inch bar as well. This is a 12-inch Patriot Bagger again. It's not a 14, but I want to make sure to point out what it takes to go up to a 14 if that's what you choose. All right, we're going to change out our clutch cable, the top half of the clutch cable. We're not going all the way back to the transmission. You need a pair of spring clip pliers to remove the spring clip that holds the clutch lever in place. So we'll do that, and then we'll go down to the connection point where the top half and the lower half come together. That's where we'll disconnect this and install our new one. All right, first thing we're gonna do is get our clutch cable out of this hose tray on the, it'll be on the right side of the neck. It's got a zip tie. It's got this plug here, which controls your ABS brakes. You can unplug it for now. Tab here, just kind of pull it up and it'll open up that whole tray. It's your clutch cable. Just remove it from that tray there. And we'll stop there. We'll come back when we go to the brake and we'll remove it. We'll remove the brake line from this tray as well. All right, we're still on the same area of the bike. Dealing with the clutch cable, let's pull this little plastic piece up. I'm gonna pull this protective boot up. And this will expose the connection point for the top side and the lower side of the clutch cable. All right, small flathead screwdriver. We're gonna pop this red button out. Compress the spring, push the red button back in. All right, hopefully you can see this best as possible. Where this connection is from the lower to the upper, there's a little bronze tab. Just lift it up to get it out of the way. All right, now we're gonna rotate this yellow housing around to where we can get to the back side of that connection point. And you wanna push the ball on the lower side of the cable through the window, essentially. Again, a small flathead works pretty well. All right, you can see that it's gone and the top side will come out. All right, first thing we're gonna do here, this little cover kind of covers up this safety relay. You can use a Torx 15. It's got one little bolt here. We're just gonna remove it and get that out of our way. That'll free up this channel here for the cable to actually come out of. Now we're gonna remove the spring clip, holds the pin in, that actually holds the lever to the cable. Your spring clip pliers. Make sure it don't go flying on you. All right, now our pin here, just push it out to expose the head on the top. just wiggle its way out. All right, now we'll pull the lever assembly out. And this cable should come right out of that channel there. Rotate the lever till the barrel comes out. And we're done with our stock cable, ready to put our new one on. All right, so this is our new cable. I'm gonna take the barrel, nest it back into the lever. Got the lever assembly here. Let's see. All right, this spring may take two sets of hands, sorry. Pull that spring up so that it sits in that channel there. All right, and then line that hole up best you can. Get your pin started. Pop it right in. Flip it over. Get our spring clip seated. All right, now put this little protective housing back on. Let's make sure that goes into that groove there. All right, now we're ready to get it hooked back up to the bike. All right, before we go to hook this up, let's put our lever back in our bag, just because it's kind of going to be flopping around a little bit. Don't want it to bang anything up. We're still on the rider's right side. This little window here, this daylight, we want to stick our clutch cable through there between the main neck of the bike and the front tube on the right. All right, so first, before we slide this in to connect to the lower side, make sure your spring is compressed. That's going to give you the slack you need. We'll slide this connection point down in here. All right, and we're just going to seat the ball on the lower side into that same groove we disconnected from earlier. You may have to spin it around and kind of push it through from the back side. And then spin it back around to get it seated into the channel. Just like that. All right, that little bronze door that we pried up earlier, just push it back down just so there's no chance that that connection can come loose. All right, we will pop our red button back out. Let our spring pop back, close the red button, and then slide your protective tube back down over that whole assembly. All right, last thing we're gonna do before we get our bars on the bike, this hose tray that holds all your ABS lines, we're gonna remove our brake line from here, and that's gonna give us a couple extra inches. If you're wanting to go up to 14s, this will be a necessity for you. So this is the same part that our clutch cable came out of. Just locate your brake line going up to your brake lever, remove that hydraulic line from that tray, and then you can put that tray back in its place. It's just going to be missing your main brake line to your front brake and your clutch cable. And now we're ready to put the bars on the bike. All right, before we put our bars in our riser and clamp them down, if you're using the stock riser clamp, these come with the stock bars come with a hole in them at the base for this set screw to go through. Same principle as the locator pins on the switch housings. This will lock the bars into one place, won't allow you to move them anywhere. Our crazy clamp is compatible with these models. If you're looking for something to add a little bit more security, you could upgrade to one of those. It's billet aluminum, It's all machined. This is a cast part. So you're getting machined aluminum with a lot of bite, and it comes with 3 set screws. But if you're choosing to stay with a stock riser clamp, just remove this, this bolt entirely. It's a Torx 27. Just sit it to the side. Now we're ready to put our bars in the riser and clamp them down. The only thing to watch out for here is just to make sure your wiring harnesses, you know, aren't in between the riser and the top riser clamp. I've done it accidentally before. You shear the whole harness in half when you tighten it down. Okay, on the 14 to 23 models, without all the updates, I went over a previous video how you could set the bars, tighten these top 2 riser bolts, leave the ones closest to the rider just kind of snug, put everything back together, get the bars where you want them, and then you could get in there with a ball-in 1/4-inch drive and tighten them down. The way these fairings are designed, it doesn't allow you to do that. So 2 ways to do it. One, you could just go ahead and sit on the bike at this point, get the bars where you want them, and lock them down. Or if you want to go ahead and put the fairing back on just to make sure there's no fitment issues, make sure they're not pushed too far forward, not allowing the fairing to sit in place, you can do that. Today, I'm just going to sit them where I personally like them. We'll tighten everything down, and then we'll put the inner and outer fairing back on and lock it all down. But that's one disadvantage to these. It was really nice on those models how you could put everything back together completely, you know, get a feel for where you wanted them, or even, you know, take it 30 miles down the road for a ride and then easily adjust them. This one's going to take a little bit more legwork for adjustment. You're just going to have to disassemble a lot more. All right, now we're going to just bust our foam off. We'll go ahead and mount our brake and clutch levers, snug them up, and we'll start putting our fairing pieces back on. All right, we're going to start with our clutch side. We'll go ahead and plug up this safety harness to the clutch lever. When you're seating this back in place, just make sure that that little pigtail harness that goes into our lever, just make sure it's not pinched or you know, behind this area here. Same thing in the risers. You'll shear a wire in half. We'll put our bolts back in on the front here. These are Torx 27s. Just snug them up. We'll get everything put back together and figure out exactly where we want them. All right, same thing on the brake. Plug our little safety harness up. Hear it click. Same thing over here. Just, you know, if you have to peek under just to make sure you don't have that harness in a bind, or your main harnesses for the switch housings. Snug our bolts up, T27. All right, we'll go ahead and plug up our electrical while we're in this area. Just make sure, obviously you got the right side on the right, left side on the left. Oh, one thing I should have said, you can see the plug coming out of the actual bike. I mean, you see how much slack you have. If you do go up to a 14, you can easily just route these back up to the riser clamp to plug up the stock harness. So extensions aren't necessarily needed. Even with a 16, you may be okay. So that's one benefit to these. There's enough slack. You easily go up to a 14, even on a 12 on the previous models, you had to extend the electrical. All right, moving over to the left side, just be one plug. You can kind of tuck those out of the way when you get your fairing on, and then you can re-clip them to the fairing if you would like. All right, first piece that we're going to put back on is this piece that goes where our fork lock is. You're going to need access to turn the front wheel of the bike. So if you got this on a center stand, maybe jack it up just a little bit more. But you're just going to kind of wiggle it in place. All right, we'll go ahead and put our 2 Phillips head screws just to hold it in place. All right, last piece here, a little trim piece. Cover our bolts up. We are good. All right, now we're ready to put our main fairing unit on. This is really just you're gonna kind of line it up with the bolt holes on the side of the legs. Line it up to the bottom, and it's just gonna click in place to that piece that we just put on. You'll kind of hear it click. Should be stable. Now we'll move back over to the front side, plug our main electrical harness back into the fairing. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and clip our wiring harnesses back to our fairing here, just so they're not vibrating around. All right, here's our main harness for our fairing. We unplugged when we took it off. Just hear them click. All right, now we're ready to start throwing some bolts back in. All right, we're gonna put our little chin piece here in place. Just kind of clicks in. All right, put our bolts back in the legs using a Torx 40. And then we got our little bolt using a Torx 25. It's going to connect that first piece we put back together to the main fairing. All right, we'll bump over to the other side and do the same thing. All right, same thing, Torx 40. Small bolt, Torx 25. Now we are ready to put the outer shell on. All right, we got our outer shell. I'm gonna connect our headlight down here. Hear it click. All right, and we're gonna click our outer shell in place. These 2 plastic tabs here, there's one on this side, one on the other. Just make sure they're lined up and kind of started into the grooves of the outer shell. And just remember to keep a little pressure on it with your hip or somebody helping you until you get these bolts tightened up. The other side. All right, outer shell should be secure now. All right, we got our piece that holds our windshield in place. There's a little channel here. Just make sure those teeth sit down in it. Torx 27 bolts. Not a bad idea to get them all started first. tighten them up. Now ready to put our windshield in place. All right, windshield in place. Kind of press it down into here. Torx 25 bolts. Just kind of get them all started. All right, we're gonna put our, we've got 6 bolts left, 3 on each side. Just remember, these are the ones I talked about earlier. You got 2 long ones and a short one. Long goes on top, short in the middle, long on the bottom. Torx 25, or Torx 27. All right, same thing on the other side. Long on the top. Short in the middle. Long on the bottom. All right, so we've got all of our reassembly done, all of our bolts put back in. Last thing we want to do is just, you know, whether take it down the road for a test ride or just, you know, sit on the garage, make sure you like where your hand controls are. If you don't love the position of the bars, you know, you can tear it back down, readjust them. But just want to make sure you like where everything's at, tighten everything up, double check everything. You're good to go. All right, so that completes the installation of our 12-inch Patriot Bagger on a 2024 Street Glide. I want to give a huge thanks to Great South Harley Davidson, Kevin the GM, Bill and Holly the sales managers. They allowed us to use this bike for this video. It's a phenomenal team. If you're in the state of Georgia and you're looking to buy a new motorcycle, I highly recommend them. Good people, they're easy to work with. Wayne, the parts manager, he's very good about helping me out if I need new parts, if I need to test fitment on things. Just good people. But appreciate you joining us today. If you have any questions, obviously reach out to us via email, phone, drop a comment below, reach out to us on social media. We're here for you. Our customer service, we strive for it to be the best it possibly can. We want you guys to keep money in your pocket, do this at home in your garage, and we're here to help you through the way. So we appreciate it again. We'll see you down the road.